Now we're live. Hello, everybody,
Yeah.
and welcome to FiveStack on Substack, 5:30 Monday to Friday this week. It's been 5 shows in a row for us. Wow, it's quite a big deal. And Dean is moving today, so he's not here. Dean Bandelka is in the middle of his move. So he bailed on me today, but Olga is still here, which is great. Olga Lautman, who's the fantastic creator and author of the Trump Tyranny Tracker and also of Unmasking Russia on Substack. And we're so happy you're here, Olga. How was your week?
No, exhausting. I think everyone feels the same way in this Trump era.
If you thought you had a bad week, I bet you the president of the United States had a bad week too. What a nightmare they are experiencing this week. I got the feeling today, watching Vance in Greenland and watching Musk yesterday on Fox News, that they were all sent out on a desperate mission to save face, to clean up, to make it look a little bit better than it really is, because it's so horrendous. The scandals that they've had just in the first 70 days. And then the screw ups on an international level is just so mind boggling. It's almost like they don't know what they're doing at all. And it's probably true that they don't know what they're doing at all. And today, on top of it all, they sent Waltz and Vance to Greenland. And it couldn't be any further away. No one even wants to see them. The entire Greenland population is like saying, we don't want you here, go get out. So they had to go to the space base, which is the only American base in Greenland. And there he goes on and on again about Signalgate. He's not even apologizing. And he says that no one's going to get fired. Waltz is not going to get fired, which is crazy because, as you just pointed out to me a while ago, Waltz isn't only guilty of starting a group chat, inviting a journalist onto it, creating an environment where Hegseth could share all his classified information in there, but he's also, now we found out, on Venmo, and all his accounts on Venmo are being leaked, all his contacts. And this is the National Security Advisor. The name says it all. He's the National Security Advisor. Why can't he secure the nation, or at least secure his accounts?
It started actually with Der Spiegel, the German outlet, and using OSINT, they were able to put together a whole network of these Trump top tier advisors and basically locate all their accounts, passwords, phone numbers, emails. And then you have Wired, who did amazing work and followed up on it and found the Venmo of Susie Wild and Mark, whatever his name is, Walt, the idiot.
Mark Waltz.
And
Yeah, so Susie Wiles, by the way, is the president's chief of staff. Like, she knows everything. Many people have linked her to Russia, by the way. But regardless, if she's on his Venmo, it's pretty weird. But anyhow, there she is, listed as one of his contacts on Venmo. Who knows what she's sending him money for, but...
Yeah, and it's just incredible because, look, these are the people who are supposed to keep America safe. And this is what we're dealing with. And I actually mentioned earlier on another podcast, Russia is one of the most corrupt, brutal regimes on this earth. They're more competent. Here you have the cruelty and the corruption, but you have the complete incompetence where, people... Basically, every single one of these people who were put in to lead an agency are inexperienced. They're either drunk Fox News host or propagandists like Dan Bongino, and this is who is supposed to keep America safe. This is incredible. They can't even keep their information safe. They're endangering our military, and with the Signalgate, as it continues, not only were they too lazy to go and sit in a skiff and have a discussion? And we already went through them discussing this with Koff in Moscow when he was at Tulsi Gabbard somewhere in Asia. She doesn't even remember where. So some of them weren't even in the country. They're planning a military operation. And now you have even the military people coming out and saying, this is not fair. If they would have done the same thing, they would have been court-martialed and jailed.
That's so important what you're saying there, because you've got these few generals now who've come on, not sourced, but behind the scenes, are saying that what really was shared was classified, and not only classified theoretically, but actually classified internally on the principal level is what they called it. And these guys can say, hey, it wasn't classified, and sure, the defense secretary has the rights to declassify stuff. But what he was sharing, and now we're hearing pilots, Air Force pilots coming out and saying that, of course, what he's sharing is very obvious to the people who would be receiving that information. Or if that information was leaked to the Houthis, they would know where these planes were taking off from. There's not really a lot of places for these planes to take off from. They're coming from the Air Force carrier that's nearby there. So it's not a secret that we don't know, that they wouldn't know where the location is. Everyone knows where the location is because that's where the planes come from, America. And on top of that, giving them half an hour heads up or an hour heads up, maybe in some cases 2 hours, of when these planes were going to take off. There is no doubt in my mind that was endangering the lives of American servicemen. There's just no ways it wasn't. And that's what every Air Force pilot that reporters are talking to right now who were involved in that, but also not involved in that, generals are also saying this is wrong. And there's not yet an acknowledgement from Hegseth or anybody that they made a mistake. Walt said he took responsibility for the call, but no one is saying, hey, I really screwed up. Sorry, guys. Sorry, my fellow servicemen. I should not have shared these secret, classified, top secret information with this open group on Signal. It's just horrific, really.
Yeah, and it's more than a mistake. This is outright laziness. This is providing, and I don't care what it is stamped. The American people will decide for themselves. This could be declassified, but if there is a military operation where, the time of the strikes, the location of the strikes, the targets of the strikes, and which weapons are being used, and this is endangering American troops. So we could take out the classification, obviously, for all normal people, this what classified information. Bottom line, our troops had to carry out a mission where their information could have potentially been leaked. And again, all because these people didn't want to go into a skiff because they were too lazy and decided to set up a chat on Signal. And just to zoom out a little bit, because we were also involved in the smaller details of Signal Gate, but to zoom out, and this is what I said earlier this week, and it builds on this. If America was living with a glass bubble where the world can't see us or hear what's happening in here, that'd be wonderful. But this has further made our European and frankly all our allies around the world question, how in the hell do we share intelligence? This started after Trump became cozy with Putin publicly and betrayed Ukraine. And already we were having that discussion, and you and I had this discussion, Five Eyes before eyes and whatnot. And now this further reiterates that America is not safe to share intelligence with. And yesterday, a report came out by Wall Street Journal that the information they were sharing came from Israel. This is how they knew that the boyfriend was going in to his...
Oh, wow. So Israeli. Oh, wow.
So they were discussing Israeli information. Now, do you really think Israelis, maybe Netanyahu and Trump are besties, but Mossad is still a professional intelligence agency?
This is not the first time.
Second time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, remember the first administration is when they did early in the first administration, they released information from the Israelis to the Russians. And people were saying, how can you do this? You can't just freelance on this stuff. He was able to get away with it. But now you're telling me that Israel was actually providing this information on the Houthis, and Hegseth was out there leaking it on Signal to the Russians. Let's be honest. As you pointed out very brilliantly in your reporting, Witkoff was in Moscow or in Baku, sorry. So somewhere along the way, he was being intercepted by Russian intelligence. And if he was on that chat group, he would have known that. And we know that the Russians are connected to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, and we know that they're providing satellite imagery to the Houthis through the IRG. So it's not hard to imagine that leaked information from the Israelis that was meant to combat these terrorists, that was top secret information, which probably involved spotters on the ground. You don't get information like the girlfriend is at home unless you know that there's someone on the ground who's got visual reference of that. So you've got people on the ground who are providing this top secret classified information to the Americans, and the Americans are blasting it out on a Signal group that is being intercepted by the Russians.
And to point out, you mentioned Witkoff in Moscow. I broke the story early this week, putting together the timeline. He was in Moscow. What his defense was, of course, I would never use a non-classified, non-government issued phone. My private phone was not with me. So he really admitted that Signal chat was on
Was
his
on private phones.
phone.
All of their private phones. Because you know what? Every government official I talk to, he says to me that no, they aren't allowed to have Signal on the phone. So how are they getting Signal on their phones? Maybe they're special, but it's unlikely that they're special.
No.
And you know, Witkoff's phone is compromised. Obviously, his phone is compromised. You weren't here yesterday, but Craig Unger also mentioned on his blog that there is a history between Witkoff and that famous gangster, the Russian gangster that was running that.
Taiwan chick and Witkoff was connected. Galupchik, who was Russian.
Yeah, unbelievable. Unbelievable. These are mobsters. They're Russian mobsters. And you've got, firstly, how is he the Middle East advisor on anything? But then you're sending him to Russia at the same time as you're running operations in Yemen. It's just mind-blowing. I don't know. It just seems like it's faulty towers, and no one is taking the for it. According to Vance today, there is no one is going to get fired for this. This is just a media obsession, he says, and no one's going to get fired, which is nonsense. If this had happened to the Democrats, if the Democrats had done something like this, I don't know, it would have cost many people many careers. But the fact that this is just going to be swept under the carpet and business as usual is ridiculous. Although I do think the president is a little annoyed, so that's a good thing in some ways.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the number 4 story of the day, which is all about Elon Musk. Thank God for Elon Musk. He fills up so much of this showtime. You so smartly yesterday, you picked up on those 2 stories on your Trump tyranny tracker that came out of the Financial Post and ProPublica. And it was all about how China is basically owning pieces of SpaceX through offshore holdings, which I was stunned at, honestly. SpaceX is not Tesla. SpaceX is the crown jewel of the American security system. In many ways, this is our future. So for us to have SpaceX compromised by having Chinese investors in there is horrendous. And then we don't know why they've kept it so secret for so long. And having kept it for secret, what are they getting in exchange? Are they getting information? Who knows what they're getting? And today you found out this other great thing about Elon's mother.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is the second story of China secretly flooding Elon's companies with money. So the first story came out a few weeks ago, and they're basically putting money in Tesla, Neuralink, and every single one of his companies through offshores and masking where the source of money is coming from. And then yesterday's story was about them using Cayman Islands to move money too much to SpaceX.
So you think it's actually that's a deliberate move just to get money to him? You think that they do this?
Absolutely.
I didn't think of it as that. Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, this is absolutely sending money to him. And then the newest piece of news came out that his mother is apparently like pretty much a Chinese propagandist running around China and normalizing a communist regime and running around with the top fashion models and frankly, just basically trying to whitewash what China is. So you have the mother who is working basically on behalf of China to make it like everything is absolutely normal. You have Elon Musk, who had the control of all our information. And not only does he have all our information, every single thing that exists on every single American, Elon and his big balls operative have this. And then on top of it, you have his connections with China, and now you see money flowing through offshores. And then what I didn't mention is that he is also using Starlink to basically secure communications in the White House. So what in the hell could go wrong?
Do you really?
Yes,
oh my God, that's directly to Putin. Honestly, that's insane that they're letting him do that.
And maybe Xi now is going to be sitting there while Susie Wild is ordering lunch. Oh, okay, what are they doing today? And collecting all this information. And
unbelievable.
Cybersecurity analysts like in shock because the storage or whatever, I'm not a technical person, but it's a few miles away and it could be penetrated. And obviously it's being done to be penetrated. Because why do you need to change the security of the White House? Why do you need a Starlink there? Why?
Why do you need satellites for internet at the White House? You need something much more secure than that. You'd think you would need Starlink.
And this is Musk's #1 client because China, he has the biggest Tesla factory in China. He has a lot of money pouring in from
Yeah,
China.
most
His
of it is coming
mother's
from China. Most of the money is coming from
exactly.
China.
Exactly.
He's floated by Chairman Xi, and everybody knows it. He goes there to China, he's treated like a royalty. He gets met by the premier. He offers him a green card equivalent, whatever they have over in China. It's He's very close to the Chinese regime. And let's just be honest here about May Musk. I don't know how old she is, but she's not a supermodel. And she goes around the world claiming to be a model. I don't know, she's 80 something now. And sure, she's a mature model, and we applaud that. We applaud that there's good room for mature models in the world. But that's not the reason that she's being out there modeling. She's out there modeling because she's running missions, right? She's needing access, and she's doing whatever she's doing. I met her once. I will say I met her once. She arranged to meet me when I was working on narrative in New York. She had someone we both knew introduce us. And I was like, I had no idea who she was, by the way. I'd come meet this older cover model. And I was like, sure, I'll come say hi. I came, said hi, and I was like, this is such a strange thing. And I spent like 10 minutes with her, and I was like, I got to get out of here. I felt this, when you feel that spidey sense. And she tells me she's a model. She doesn't tell me anything about Elon Musk or anything like that. And I had no idea who she was, or even Elon Musk was maybe at the time. But that was it. But she's not a model, is what I got to say. She is this cover story she's generated over the years that she's some sort of supermodel, and she's somehow now in China integrating herself, and in other parts of the world integrating herself into all these high level situations. That is a cover story for a spy. This woman is not getting booked on the cover of magazines because she's anyone other than a agent for somebody, and maybe occasionally as a mother for Musk, but I don't think that's happening anymore.
I don't know how China operates because China is not my region, but I do know how authoritarian, corrupt regimes operate, and I have enough of my hands full with Russia that could keep me going day to night, literally. And with Russia, this is how they operate influence agents. This is exactly one of their main tactics to get Westerners to act as influence agents for them. They have various degrees of which influence agent you are, whether you're a social media influencer, whether they fly you to Moscow, take you to the theater, and to all the best sites in Moscow so you can promote the country and how wonderful the country, and whitewash all the war crimes and genocide and then everything off of the country. So they have various degrees of influence agents, and this is how they operate. And when I read the story yesterday on the mother in China, I'm like, using my knowledge on how Russia operates, okay, this is exactly what Russia would do, to hire someone to sit there and whitewash that regime, whitewash their crimes, whitewash what they're responsible for across the globe. And that's it. And then on top of it, you have the financial money flowing. I am sorry. There's zero reason that any kind of money should be going through Cayman Islands to Elon Musk, who had contracts. At this point, he's taking over the whole government. I mean, he literally, it's like an Elon takeover. Trump is not even in charge. It's Elon who's everywhere with his operatives, hackers, and criminals.
He said, yes, this is our third story, so we might as well get into it. He said yesterday on Fox News that he thought he was going to get done at his government job after 130 days. There's a 130-day limit as a government special employee, which is his categorization, that he can spend on the job. Now, it doesn't have to be continuous 130 days. It just has to be 130 days of work, and any number of hours in a day counts as a day of work in that regard. And he says 130 days will be enough for him to save $1 trillion off the budget, which is bullshit. If you believe him, and I struggle to believe him on that, then he will be out by either the end of May, because that's 130 days, or by the end of July, that's 130 days, including weekends and government federal holidays. Now, that sounds good to me if he's out in 130 days. If he's out by the end of summer, hallelujah, because that man has been causing chaos. But I don't believe any of this. I don't believe did you see him on Fox News last night with his
I saw clips of it. I don't watch Fox News because I have enough from Russian news to twist my stomach.
He is lying through his teeth. He is busy telling people that Social Security is going to go up when he's done. He said, I'll say it twice and you can follow up with me later on. He said, Social Security is actually going to go up after we're finished. And I was like, I don't believe you for a second. You're giving your wealthy billionaires tax cuts and you can't balance the budget. And you're saying that there's so much waste and fraud. And on top of that, you're going to say that your efficiencies are going to give these Social Security increases, it's not going to happen.
I do my tyranny tracker. Idiotic buffoons who are, again, 19, 20, 21-year-old with very questionable past are marking people dead. I had already documented 2 cases, one veteran in Seattle, in Colorado, God bless him, 90 years old, who the government marked dead. He stopped getting his Social Security, he stopped getting his Medicare, and they started clawing back benefits for already 3 weeks because of what Elon has done with Social Security. It is absolutely dysfunctional, and 3 weeks later, this man cannot prove that he is alive. I am here. I am alive. Can I have my benefits back? Another case, an 82-year-old man in Seattle, same exact thing. He is sitting there and trying to prove that he's alive, and I don't understand. So you have these buffoons cutting Social Security to people who they just, oh, this person looks dead, but and get right out of the system. And we're going to have more of this happening because they are gutting Social Security. They are causing so many issues inside that within months, I'm not kidding, I was just laughing with someone that we're going to have like senior citizens with pitchforks going after Elon and Trump, because if they lose their Social Securities, they're also rewriting the code. What can go wrong with them rewriting the code for Social Security with 70 plus million Americans on it? And as far as whether Elon is staying or going, I'll talk about it from intelligence terms. If you are, call it foreign intelligence service, whatever, general, come to America, your mission is to place your operative into the White House, into the CIA, the FBI, the DNI, whatever. You don't need to stay in America after your mission is complete. Musk has placed every single one of his operatives in every single agency. They're all breathing down everyone's throat, and you have career officials sitting and answering to big balls. Even if Musk on paper exits, it doesn't mean anything because all his operatives are now sitting inside the agencies.
I've got to underline what you're just saying, because that's important. You're essentially saying, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're saying that he is an operative for a foreign country. We can assume either Russia or China. Certainly for Russia, we've had verifiable contacts with Putin over a long period of time. It's hard to believe he's not, but maybe for both. And that he is placed all these people, Trump, by supporting his election, by funding the election, and by rigging that election. He supported Trump into the White House. And now he's got all these other people like Tulsi Gabbard in charge of the Department of National Intelligence. He's got Kennedy in charge of the Department of Health and Human Services. And the cuts they are doing there are terrible cuts. 20, 30% of the workforce is being cut on these essential research agencies. The amount of research grants that have been cut, the danger that they're putting American kids into because of the vaccine policy, which seems to be favoring feeding people nutritious food, which is great, but not in supporting any vaccinations. We are seeing a wholesale gutting of the entire administration. But to your point, it's orchestrated out of a foreign land. This is a foreign invader that placed all these people in there. And we have to keep that center of our attention, because every time Musk goes on Fox News or Vance goes to Greenland, and even sometimes Trump, they sound vaguely reasonable on occasion. And they're not reasonable. They are bullshitting us. They are trying their damnedest to hide what they're doing, because they're doing so much that is so dangerous. And that doesn't even get into the crypto and all the other stuff that they're doing, but they are climbing away. And, you know, when Martin O'Malley, the guy who used to run the Social Security Service, when he said that they're going to steal that $2.7 trillion that is in the fund, they're going to steal that $2.7 trillion. He knows what they're doing. He can see it. He knows the systems. They are after that $2.7 trillion. And right now, they're just slowly cutting away the services, cutting away staff. It takes weeks or hours, or God knows how long, to get onto the phones, to get to talk to anybody at Social Security. If you're one of these people who's now declared dead, it'll take you even longer. They'll say you don't exist. Who are you? And so you've got to go prove you're alive. That it takes longer. All these things are just slowing down the entire system until people get so frustrated, so fed up, they will either erupt in a revolution or just give up, which is where we may be heading because the Social Security is going to become so inaccessible despite everything he's been saying. So he makes me mad, that man.
And it's not only Social Security, because this is touching everyone. All the daycare vouchers that the people are losing because the government cut grants. Everything, all the grants for science, all the grants for food banks. How do you cut $2 billion from children's school? I mean,
And
like, what are you doing?
food banks.
Yeah, so, and look, I posed a question in January because I've been following, like you, this Trump Russia thing for a decade now. My God, please, I don't understand how he's back. But for a decade, I did a deep dive, I investigated him and whatnot. And I have to say, and I posed this question on Twitter, is there any foreign nation that you could think of that could do as much damage, implode America, shatter it into pieces, break every single part of it, humiliate it, destroy it on the global stage, break all the alliances more than what is happening now? What Trump is doing, Trump, Musk, and this whole freaking incompetent cabal, what they're doing is destroying America. They want to destroy. They don't care if it's red states, blue states, red towns, blue towns. They don't care. And that's it. And you are seeing this because, one, they're doing it at lightning speed. They're imploding the economy. I feel like Trump, where before he used to obsess when the market was up and excited, I feel like he sees the market slightly down. He let me push it more down and come out and talk about tariffs and crash the market. And he wants to crash the market. And we haven't even gotten to the most sensitive thing, which I keep warning people about. And this is him taking control of the Federal Reserve. If he dismantled the independent Federal Reserves, you will see all the global markets just free fall. Because American Treasury, American Federal Reserve, this is like the gold standard of the globe. And should this be tinkered with, this will destroy global economy, U.S. economy. This is something that it will take forever to recover from.
I agree with you. I think that the goal is to I think they've got a shopping list, basically. China, or particularly China, I think, has given them a shopping list of what they want. And I think they're working their way through it, whether it's Canada or Greenland, or it's the Federal Reserve, or the destruction of the US dollar, or the destruction of the US economy, or the destruction of America's social security system, you name it. They are going to try and destroy it because they've got to work through this list because they probably get bonuses or something at the end of it all. And that's what it appears to me. And Linda White here on the chat is saying they're stealing the money and our debt will back up. And then when the country crashes and people are in the streets starving like they were in Germany after World War I, people are going to get crazed. And that's what she thinks is happening. A lot of people think there's a war at the end of all of this because of this exact thing, is because they're driving people insane. The torture, the cruelty that they're putting people through is unbelievable.
The pitchfork, I'm not kidding. I was saying, let them touch I was literally, just before I hopped on, said it to someone. Like, let them mess with senior citizens. You will have them with canes and walkers when pitchforks rolling down to the White House. Where is my Social Security? Because this is incredible. Like, how do you go after senior citizens? There's one thing when I was growing up, and this is, you have to have respect for your elders. And this was something that was programmed. If you're sitting on a bus and an elder comes on, you get up and you give them the seat, everything, for the elders. And the fact that they're starting with the elders and the children, it shows you what they're doing.
All the weakest people in society is what they go for first. And let's move on to story number, I don't even know where we are now. I think it's number 2. Do we miss number 3? Maybe we missed number 3. No, it's I don't know where we are. Maybe you guys can help me. I can't remember. But we'll call this number 2. So, it is about Canada and it's about Greenland. So yesterday, the Prime Minister of Canada said, hey, sorry, America, we're out of this deal we have with you in terms of security and the economy. We're basically bailing. They refused to take Trump's call yesterday. That message got through to Donald Trump today, because apparently that's the only way you can deal with this kind of guy, is to just be as really tough with him as you possibly could. Yeah, it's the same thing. They only believe it when you're talking tough talk. And so today, Donald Trump, I just finished speaking with Prime Minister Carney of Canada, not the governor of Canada, but the Prime Minister of Canada. It was an
Oh,
extremely productive call. We agreed on many things, and we'll be meeting immediately after Canada's upcoming election to work on elements of politics, business, and all other factors. That will end up being great for both the United States of America and Canada. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And the point there is he doesn't talk about the 51st state. He doesn't talk as he did about Trudeau about being the governor of Canada. And it turns out that he does respond to only one thing, and that is tough talk. And today, when Vance was out in Greenland, the conversation around Canada was no longer about annexing Canada. It was about the trade war that they're having with Canada. Now, that seemed to increase the amount of pressure they have in terms of wanting Greenland, because they want one of these two countries. They need Greenland or they need Canada to get access to the Arctic, maybe both. That would make China super happy because China doesn't have access to the Arctic. So if they can get one of these two, it's great. But if both, would make them super happy. And I think what we're seeing is a Canadian prime minister, hopefully he wins these elections, who is capable of dealing with Donald Trump. And if there's a lesson to everyone else around the world who has to deal with Donald Trump, is you just have to stand up to him. This is clearly the only thing that he responds to is people pushing back as hard as he pushes.
100%. And look, first of all, this is him today. Who knows? He may be in some kind of horse tranquilizers. Also, you know,
Yeah, he had a bad week.
and he might wake up at 2 in the morning and again start with this. Frankly, how he carries on about building the wall. Canada needs to build the wall. And ultimately, look, Canadians are the nicest people. These are the nicest people. They are our neighbors. They're our most reliable neighbor. And the fact that he came in attacking a NATO founder, not Russia, not Iran, not China, not North Korea, a NATO founder. This is who his priority, and Greenland, who is covered by NATO's umbrella. The fact that this is who he started with, that he's attempting to implode Canada's economy, it's outrageous. But there is a bright side of this, and even though Canadians will undergo economic pain, as will the U.S. from everyone, at least the Canadians are banding together. And yesterday, actually, my tracker put a story that Canadians not only are boycotting all American products and took them off shelves, are videotaping, taking them off shelves, but the travel coming into U.S., for April alone, bookings are down 76%. From April to September, 70%. Do you blame the Canadians for not wanting to come here? I'm telling everyone, stay out, stay out, stay out. Whether you're in Europe, whether you're in Canada, stay out. Between the sociopathic ICE running around and grabbing people without due process and throwing them, and they've already taken Canadians, kidnapped them, disappeared them for a few weeks, and Germans and British and whatnot. Yes, today it got pushed back against him, and you have to talk. He's a thug. He is a thug. Just like Putin, you have to push back. But at the same time, Canada needs to prepare. They have been preparing because, frankly, I would not put it past Trump to send military into Canada. And we will have a situation where the British and Canadians are going to have to fight American troops, which is going to be the biggest humiliation. And France already warned that they will put together a coalition and send French troops along with other European allies to secure Greenland should American troops try to invade.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is Greenland is Denmark. Yeah.
This is disgusting. This is Trump is acting like a Putin. This bloody imperialist, this is mine. I want this, I want that. These are sovereign countries. No, you're not getting these sovereign countries and their story. And
these sovereign countries, the system that we have in the world is what's kept peace in the world for the last 70 years. No one is eager to destroy that so we can get into another world war, except for Vladimir Putin. And now Donald Trump. The reality of it is no one wants to be here except for these two crazy megalomaniacs who are out there trying to destroy.
Because he wants Taiwan.
And she wants to win. She wants China to be the leading superpower in the world and run the world. And that's, if he destroys America, he gets there. But the fact that the American people elected someone who's so beholden to Putin, who is listening to Xi at every move, that's basically, you've got this triumvirate of evil. They're basically hell-bent on sending the world into a world war that nobody wants. And there's no reason for it. The world's been getting along just fine with everybody. And it's not necessary. You talk about Canada and America, these two great nations that have been friends with each other for so long. And why wouldn't you be friends with your neighbor? Why would you want to pick a war with your neighbor? Of all the people you'd be wanting to be on good terms with, your neighbor, regardless of whether it's a country.
The worst neighbor in hell.
Yeah,
Russia.
that means
They terrorize every single country that's unfortunate to be next door to them. Has to deal
exactly.
with a sociopathic, mafia, war criminal state, a terrorist state. Frankly, now we are becoming like that. This is what it is. Now the United States is acting like a Russia, where it's, my God, like, please, can we replace neighbors? Move, go away.
So I wasn't going to do this as my number one story, but because you're just mentioning this, let's do this as the number one story. So there is a professor that was arrested by ICE, or I don't even know if the word arrested is the right term anymore. I think we need to call it disappeared. I don't know, because these people are like, so she's a person who's at Yale, I think, studying at Yale, who was obviously critical of the Putin regime at some point. And when she told, they gave her a choice initially. They said, you can go back to France, or we can deport you and you can't come back ever. But then she told them, don't send me to Russia because they really hate me in Russia because of something I've done before. So what did they do? As a result of that, they imprisoned her in some cell in Louisiana, and now she's disappeared. And this is them doing Putin's bidding. This is welcome to the United States of Russia, basically. Welcome to our country. We will, if you're going to offend Vladimir Putin, or if you're opposed to Vladimir Putin, we will take you and throw you into a cell. And who knows when we're going to see her again, and who knows how long it's going to take to get her out, or how much it's going to cost to get her out. But that story, amongst all these other ICE stories, is so distressing, because why are they acting on Putin's behalf?
I think here they're acting, I wouldn't think it's as much coordinated, honestly, because here they're just disappearing everyone. They're grabbing students, professors, anyone who's been critical, and throwing them into the detention centers, and that's it. So I wouldn't put it as much on that. Hopefully she will make it to France, because I'm sure France probably gave her asylum to begin with when she escaped Russia. But it's just that this is why I say that no one should travel here, because this is what is happening. And as I've said before, that these tactics are being tested on the students, on people with green cards and visas, and they're testing it on them to perfect it, to turn it on American citizens. And there's actually documentation that now Americans flying in are also having their phones examined. So this is a
Americans too now. Wow, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yep, Americans too. Maybe it's directly that someone called from Russia and said, oh, hey, you picked her up, we want her back. It could be, very well be that. It could just be that these ICE people are just grabbing everyone, because Rubio himself bragged yesterday, oh, we 300 visas, over 300. For what? For political opinion? For what?
Tourist visas, fine. Fine. If you've got a tourist visa and someone came into the country and they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, fine. Maybe it's okay. Green card holders are American citizens, basically. They get treated like Americans. Why are they revoking green card holders? Why are they revoking people who are here legally working? Why are they, like, it just makes no sense. Like, I get that you have to have some restrictions on what people do in your country when they're here. But if they live here, if this is their residence, if this is where they live, you can't just pluck them out of their lives and throw them into some cell in another country. I mean, it's...
And now it's green card holders. What happens if it becomes naturalized citizens next?
It will, of course.
Obscure, so that means someone like me was going to wake up and say, oh, we found some obscure 1700 92 law that gives them the power to revoke naturalization from people.
Of course, this is where they're going. This is exactly where they're going. They will find every opportunity to take out any of their opponents, any of their critics, anyone that they feel is a threat to them. They're going to do the best they can to silence them. And if that means throwing them into another country or throwing them into a cell, they don't care. because these people do not care about people. They care about their wealth. They care about their empires. They care about their heads being overblown with ego. And this is what drives them. They don't care about you as a human being. It's clear from
No.
every single policy decision since they've started that they are not interested in every man. They're interested in just tearing apart America for their own personal interest. And that bullshit about helping grocery prices go down or managing the middle class or helping all that stuff was bullshit. It's just we've all been conned. America's been conned to a large extent, or at least MAGA's been conned to this horrific situation. But this is a pack of lies. And these are a group of people who are incompetent, who shouldn't at all have any role in government at all. They're criminals, most of them. They all have some sort of background in something in their history that would normally not even qualify them as getting security clearance. So how are they now operating as the national security teams of our country and making decisions about other people's rights to live in this country when they have themselves broken the law so many times? It's just horrific, and it's not a happy situation at all. I know you wanted to talk about the attack on Act Blue. So let's talk a little bit about that, because that's just another one of these shake your head moments.
Yeah, and this is something because I always look, for ways like the tactics and everything. They are flooding the zone with shit and like nonstop orders. I look for tactics that actually are attacking like the foundations of democracy and what. And this one alarmed me, and it tied into what Trump is doing with the law firms, because he's really going after the law firms. And the media, oh, this is retribution. This is not retribution. This is to intimidate law firms from representing anyone who wants to sue this regime for any of their egregious acts. So basically, he's trying to silence the law firms. And now in the latest, Elon and the Republican Party and Trump put their attention to Act Blue. Now, this is a fundraising pillar for the Democratic Party. So they are now basically trying to dismantle the fundraising capabilities of the Democratic Party, which is the first step in trying to take out opposition. And this is why I thought the story needs to be highlighted, because this is what you do. This is what, happened in Russia, although it's questionable about the opposition party there. But the first thing you do is try to take out the opposition party. And you
So
find
Act Blue
ways.
is a fundraising organization. Let's just explain to everyone that
It's a fundraising organization. It
for
distributes
Democrats.
money for all Democratic candidates. And the fact that they're trying to look for illegality and criminality and to try to shut this down. They don't care about per se the criminality. This is to remove, to weaken the Democratic Party in order to remove the opposition.
So they're basically claiming that there's fraud. They're claiming that they're funding terrorism. They're claiming a whole bunch of ridiculous things about Act Blue in order to take Act Blue out, which funds a lot of these very expensive races, because it's now very expensive to run for government, of course. Yeah. And it's beyond ironic, of course, because Elon Musk funded the entire Republican campaign out of Russian money, or wherever he gets his sources from, and no one's even looked at that, and the fraudulent nature in which he won that, using Russian disinformation campaigns to basically win that election for Donald Trump. So now he's a government employee who's taking part in a partisan attack on Act Blue. This is inexcusable. No government employee who's there to work on efficiency, or whatever he claims to be doing, should be participating in a partisan effort, because how can we be sure that what he's doing inside the government, making efficiency happen, isn't also partisan? We can't, obviously. And in this case, it's ridiculous that he's actually, the Wisconsin thing where he's funding $1 million prizes for people. And now this man does not understand the notion of objectivity or impartiality or service or anything. And it is a disgrace that the Republicans are going after Act Blue.
And you mentioned Wisconsin. It just shows you the corruption in this regime. You mentioned Wisconsin. You know that Elon has a Tesla case in Wisconsin, and he needs a Wisconsin judge to rule in his favor for his case. So he poured $18 million to support the opponent, the Republican who's running for the seat of Wisconsin seat, the judge, Supreme Court seat. He's giving away $1 million. He gave away $1 million. He's holding more events before April 1st to give away $1 million more, or a few $1,000,000 more. Again, this is someone who is not only supporting the Republican Party just because he wants to inject money into it. He's trying to win a court case that involves his company.
I think this is exactly what he's doing everywhere. He's basically eliminated the Consumer Protection Board, which was looking after whether his Teslas were safe, or the Neuralinks were also being investigated out of one of these agencies. He canceled that. He has gone after Newsom in California because the California coastline is not a board is not allowing him to build missiles, Starlink launches, SpaceX launch pads over there. It's all the same stuff now. Yeah. And he's protecting himself. He's protecting his own $38 billion that he gets from the US government while cutting everyone's Social Security and Medicaid, and participating now in partisan politics. This is not a place where you can do that. You're a government employee in the executive branch. You're not allowed to be doing these kinds of things. It's ridiculous. And the only person that I don't know who stops this, because it's potentially the Supreme Court's going to do stuff. Some people maybe. But it's the people. You've said this repeatedly. You said that's the only way.
It's the people, it's us. When every American gets fed up with this, is when people come out in large numbers because they've been affected, we will put an end to it. And I will say CNN, for all the critique of CNN that I do, they actually ran a very good segment yesterday. They traveled to West Virginia, to a town in West Virginia, which is Megaville. And apparently they interviewed several very mega fanatics who now no longer support Trump because they lost their jobs because of these government cuts, the federal purges. And now they snapped out of the mega bubble and out of that mega Kool-Aid, and are now dealing with real issues of, oh shit, now I have to pay my rent. How am I paying my rent? And regret voting for him, and regret falling down this red pill rabbit hole of what mega brand was selling. So,
it's a little too late, but I'm glad they've come to the realization, though.
But like I say, you know what? Mega is a problem. This extremism, this Christian nationalist extremism welcomes Putin, welcomes Xi, welcomes autocratic practices is a big problem. Canada had it, and Trump, with all his annexation talks, has managed to unite Canadians to the point that, like I keep saying, all of Russia's operations of dividing, polarizing, got thrown out the window the minute Trump repeatedly kept threatening to invade Canada. Same thing here. If Trump continues on this path, which he doesn't seem to be slowing down with Musk in tow, we might actually be able to defeat megaism, this extremism, because we need a Republican Party, but we need one that's normal in the center, that understands the Constitution, and that can clearly state when someone in their party is committing a crime or is committing corruption or did something. Democrats have no problem. When Menendez was under investigation by the FBI for being a lobbyist and having gold bars, as every apparently public worker does in his closet coming from Egypt, Democrats had no problem saying this is wrong, and they pushed him publicly to step away. This is a healthy party. You cannot be a sycophant and stand right at you whitewash everything that is happening. And this is eventually what we need if we survive this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'd also like to see the Democratic Party also have a renewal. I'm looking at them sometimes and thinking this is not enough. Allowing Bill to go through that last week or 2 weeks ago was one thing, but just today, I think the Senate Banking Committee was still about to put Atkins through as the chairman of the SEC. This is a crypto fanatic. This guy wants to make crypto legal everywhere, and he wants to have no regulation, no monitoring of it. This is the head of the SEC, and this is Trump's pick. And the Senate Banking Committee, which includes some notables that you were like, wait a second, why are they voting for this? Why are Democrats voting for these appointments when they know that crypto is a scam that's going to hurt the American people? And I tell you why. They all have crypto holdings is why at the end of the day. And not all of them, but certainly some of
Yeah.
them. And it's problematic. I think Democrats need to you hold the line. You hold the line right now because there's not, you can't encourage these people. You can't give them any wins. Anytime they have a tiny win, it's just going to make things impossible to deal with later on. Everyone online is talking about the big protests that are happening on April 5th. That is correct. There are protests nationwide on April 5th. It's indivisible.org, I think is where you get all the information from. We will be here, by the way. I'm going to try to do live coverage all day long on Narrative so we can cover. If you're going to the protests, no matter where you are, anywhere in the country, you can call us over your cell phones and talk to us and tell us exactly what you're thinking, and we'll help broadcast your messages and the protests nationwide, because I think it's so important that everyone gets a handle on what it is. So if anyone is planning to attend any of these protests on April 5th, write to me at next@narrative, NARATIV.org. That's next@narrative, NARATIV.org. Tell me how I can reach you on that day, or I'll give you information about how you can call in when we're live. We'll take your video, we'll take your calls, and we'll make sure that everyone sees the giant protests that are hoping to happen, that we hope will happen on April 5th. It looks like it's going to be a pretty amazingly big day for everybody, an important day for America. That is our countdown today. Olga, did we get to everything you wanted to talk about today? I think we did.
Yes, we did.
Are you ready for the weekend?
My only closing message with this is just keep calling, whether it's Democrats, Republicans, because we are the ones who are in charge. And just keep calling, keep showing up, keep protesting, keep emailing 5 calls a day. Just be on top of all of this, because we will ultimately slow this down or stop this. And the last thing I want to say very quickly, we had a show dedicated to Ukraine and the kidnapped children. Thanks to everyone's calls and a handful of bipartisan Congress people, House members, they managed to restart the program temporarily.
That's great news. That is fantastic news.
So
it's awesome. Well done, everybody.
There was so much backlash. That's why I'm saying pressure works. It is slowing things down. There was so much backlash over cutting this database of kidnapped Ukrainian children by Russians. And from everyone's phone calls from this whole campaign, and now they reinstated it for 30 days. So this evidence of Russia's kidnapping of 20,000+ children can get to European law enforcement.
Wow.
To everyone who did call, I know we've been putting out, keep putting pressure. Maybe we could get the program reinstated permanently, but at least enough to the point now that this evidence of genocide can get to the Europeans.
That just tells you how important that taking action, and everyone has got a voice, everyone can do something. There is always hope. It might seem hopeless right now. It might seem pretty dark. The world is not feeling particularly good. But we've seen this week that Donald Trump caves under circumstances that are not good for him. And he's had a few of them this week, and he's not doing very well. This is the kind of pressure that really works. At the end of the day, we all have a voice. We all can use it. We can all go to these protests. We can all call our Congress people. We can all call our senators, and we can get things done. And we shouldn't let them get away with very much. The best thing we can do is stall everything that they're doing, and hopefully and just keep fighting, because this is not over by a long shot, and there's a lot of hope left for America and for everything we stand for. On that note, everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the FiveStack. It's been really great to do it 5 days a week. We might do it 5 days a week next week, and who knows? But every Friday,
a few days.
Any day you want to be here, you can be here, Olga. We love having you on the show. And Dean's moving, but he'll be back on Monday. And thanks again for your support wherever you are. If you haven't subscribed to our Substacks, you can catch Olga at Unmasking Russia or at her Trump Tourney Tracker. And you can catch mine at narrative.org, NARATIV.org, or Dean Blundell at deanblundell.substack.com. And on that note, have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.